sage, rosemary, and thyme.
Hello there, welcome to my channel. My name is Doug and I'm back with another fountain pen review. I've held off reviewing today's pen until close to the end of the year, when I start to compile the list of my top fountain pen experiences for the year. And I'll be posting my top fountain pens of 2021 video next Saturday. Same pen time, same pen channel.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
In last year's top pens of 2020, I gave the Jinhao Centennial an honorable mention, and over the year I've been praising it many times as one of the best fountain pens for the money on the market. Then Jinhao came out with new colors and variations. The new Jinhao Centennial, or Jinhao 100, is available with its top and bottom finials and section made of the same acrylic as the body and cap instead of the black. I had to buy one. I got it in the same beautiful sky blue cracked ice acrylic as the runner-up Jinhao Centennial. One of the reasons I feel this is an excellent fountain pen buy is how easily swappable the nibs are. Many first-time fountain pen users will experience a Jinhao in one of their very inexpensive but wonderful models, X450, X750, and 159. These pens are not only sturdy and expensive pens that write, they have a number 6 size steel nib that is easily swappable with the standard number 6 size nibs out there. All that for around $5 US. This Centennial is a little more expensive at around $18 US, but has the same number 6 size easily swappable Jinhao steel nib and comes in a huge variety of wonderful acrylics. And Jinhao is adding more all the time, as this has become one very popular fountain pen, and for good reason. They've even got a beautiful satin black finish Centennial and have gone ahead and made red and black versions that mimic the imprint of the original Parker Duofold, with different words, of course. No, they're not Chinese. And there are versions available with the Parker style arrow clip instead of the ball clip. Without giving away other pens on my best of 2021 list, spoiler alert, this pen makes the list. And see why right now. So today's NPD, New Pen Day, is all about the Jinhao Centennial, or the Jinhao 100. I reviewed this last year, and actually it made my top 10 runners-up list for 2020. And this pen, I replaced the nib with a Mr. Pen Italics oblique broad stub, which is just delightful. And I've grown to really appreciate the Jinhao Centennial, and so much that when they came out with a new style, I had to have one. And it has the same kind of coloring, but the finials aren't black, and the section isn't black, I don't think. So the package has arrived. Here it is, and let's open it. And there it is. You can see it's the same material, only the hardware is gold and the finials aren't black anymore. See what the section, and the section is the same color. Nice. A typical number 6 size Jinhao nib. Interesting new kind of converter for Jinhao. Easy nib unit. So we shall clean this pen out and put it through its paces. And what I'd like to do today is go over the parts and features of this pen, show some size comparisons, some measurements, and then provide a writing sample. After the writing sample, please stay tuned as I will talk about what I like and what I don't like so much about this fountain pen. When I bought my first Jinhao Centennial, it was almost exactly 2 years ago, and this is the one. It's in this bright orange that tried to mimic the original Parker Duofold Big Red. The Big Red really wasn't red either, but it wasn't this bright orange. I was impressed by the pen itself, but the nib needed work to make it write smoothly. Again, the cool thing about the Jinhao number 6 steel nibs is that if you don't like it, there are plenty available with which to replace it cheaply. But they are also interchangeable with a wide range of number 6 nibs from Jovo to Bach to this italics oblique cursive broad that I just adore, and even to these new Kaigelu long blade calligraphy nibs, which I haven't even unboxed yet. This original Jinhao Centennial has actually had at least 3 nibs in it so far. But this original didn't overwhelm me with its nib or its beauty either, as it's rather plain and, well, orange. And as I said in my review, I wish they would come out with some nice acrylics for this model to compete with the Moonman M600. And they did. About a year later, the Jinhao Centennial, now called the Jinhao 100, was also available in 15 cool acrylics. For $12 US, you had an array of beautiful acrylics with which to choose. I chose this pale blue cracked ice. The first Centennial came with a Jinhao medium nib. Now they only come with the Jinhao fine nib. The nib was fine as well as being okay, and I was fine with that. But I swapped it out anyway. For most of the year, it had the italics oblique cursive broad nib in it with diamine Jack Frost ink, and I used it extensively for signatures on cards and special notes. I loved this pen so much that I included it as a runner-up in my Best of 2020 video. Then Jinhao came out with another variant. These are the good variants coming out of China, of course. Jinhao changed the black plastic finials to be the same acrylic as the cap and barrels, and of course I had to have one. And yes, it is the same color I loved so much in the one from the previous year. As I mentioned in the intro, there are some other variants as well. One is that the Parker style arrow clip seems to be randomly available, as are the black and big red styles, with a stamping made to mimic the original duofolds. But this one says Jinhao pen in the banner, and century above that, and what looks like QG stationery and fountain pen on the shoulders. I guess they just had to make some stuff up for the edges of the banner. But let's take a look at the 2021 model of the Jinhao 100 Centennial. Everything about this pen is the same as the 2020 and the 2019 models, except the finials in the section, of course, and a couple of other minor details, and one important thing we're going to get to in a second. From the top, we see the Jinhao Chariot logo in a gold-colored medallion. The tapering finial is separated from the cap by a gold metal ring, and the finial unscrews, so you can see how the clip is attached and how it holds the gold metal clip to the cap. The clip is a tapering gold metal with the Jinhao Chariot on the top and the ball end at the bottom. And it's nicely springy and usable. The cap is straight to the tapering gold metal cap band, which has 2 grooves in it and Jinhao stamped in the middle. There's a tiny step down to the barrel, which tapers up slightly first and then is straight until almost the end, where it tapers slightly right here before the gold metal ring, which separates the end finial, the same acrylic again, from the barrel. And this one unscrews, just like the top finial, which is interesting because you can almost grip that converter and use it to prime the feed without having to unscrew the barrel. Almost. But if you try that, it'd be a good idea to put a drop of glue, crazy glue, on the end of that finial there to keep that gold ring from falling off. You might lose it. The other 2 Centennials don't have that unscrewable black finial. I think they're glued on. The cap unscrews with the same 1, 2, and 3/4 turns, which is a bit frustrating, to reveal the same wonderfully shaped section, but this time it is in the matching acrylic. Nicely done, Jinhao. Just like the previous editions, there's a ring at the end of the section, and we see the number 6 size steel fine nib, this one in gold with a chrome border. But this is interesting right here. This is the old style Jinhao nib that has the 18K GP marking on it, but no size indication. Here is the 2020 Centennial nib, and you note it has a large F for fine instead of the 18K GP, which I suppose is supposed to mean 18 karat gold plated. And if you believe that, you'll believe anything. Perhaps they're just using up their old stock. I don't know. The section is very comfortable, and the cap threads are very smooth. This is one of the reasons I like this pen so much. This section is just great, and the pen feels great in the hand. The nib and feed are part of a nib assembly that unscrews for easy maintenance, and the feed is plastic. And of course it unscrews for nib swapping as well. And I've been able to swap nibs in and out of these Jinhao nib units very easily. The section unscrews to reveal the included converter, and this is an important change to note. This converter is not the same size as the previous Centennials. The first two were standard international, where this one seems to be Chinese standard. I cannot swap the converters, they just don't fit. But interestingly, I can use both Chinese standard and international standard cartridges. Here's a standard international cartridge, and it seems to fit in there just fine. And here is the Chinese standard cartridge. Sometimes you get packs of these on eBay for Hongdian pens as well, and that fits in there just fine as well. I think it might have to do with this metal reinforced nipple on the new converter. You see, you get a nipple ring and gee, someone could just lose a tooth. The inside of the cap shows a step milled into it to seal the cap against the section when it is capped. And at the end of the metal section, there is an O-ring there to seal the barrel and also to keep that metal on acrylic right there from cracking, and you get a nice positive fit. It's a nice little touch. The cap posts just about the same as the previous models do, which isn't very good. It will stick on there, but it's not very deep, and it makes the pen more of a conductor's baton than a writing instrument. And it also heavily backweights that pen. Unposted, the pen has a perfect length and girth and a joy to hold and write with. I bought this pen on eBay for $18.39. The first one I bought was $20 US. The second one I got was $14.98 US, and this one is $18.39. So you see the prices are fluctuating all over the place. I'm seeing them now on eBay between $12 and $18, depending on which finish and clip you select. There are some really cool new colors available, and they've started offering mixed finials, barrels, and caps. Now let's look at some size comparisons. And here is the 2021 Jinhao Centennial 100 with a Moonman M600S, a Conklin Durograph, just to show the Chinese aren't the only ones to copy the Duofold, even though this pen was made in China too, and a 2021 Kaigelu 316, and a 2018 Kaigelu 316. This one's hugely heavier than that one. Now let's look at them posted. And here they are posted, or semi-posted. Some of these you can just knock right off, and they're right off the screen. Now let's look at some measurements, and I'll be back with a writing sample. And we're back with the writing portion of the review. This is Clairefontaine 90 GSM paper, and this is the Jinhao 100 Centennial. And it has a number 6 size steel fine nib. Now let's check the wetness. Now this pen is very, very wet indeed. The nib is smooth, but again, I had to give it some micro mesh for about 30 seconds to get some of the edge off it. Just some figure eights on some 12,000 grit for about 30 seconds, and it's fine. I don't remember a Jinhao nib that hasn't required this. And the ink today is diamine, or diabine, depending on what side of the pond you're on, Jack, Frost. And here are some close matches to this ink from inkswatch.com. This ink is remarkable. It comes in this really cool bottle with the glass feet. And of course, it has a really nice shimmer to it. It's from the Holiday Collection by Diamine. But the ink shades incredibly. It goes from a teal color to a deep purple, blue, dark blue, purple. And then it gets a really nice red sheen to it. I don't know whether I'm going to be able to catch this or not. But there's a really cool red sheen on that ink. Of course, it has some silver shimmer to it as well. A very nicely, aptly named holiday ink. And an ink like this does a lot better in a broader nib, or better yet a stub, where it can lay down a lot of ink. And as to line variation, well, like most Chinese steel nibs, there's none to be had. Because this nib is very stiff. It's a fairly thick line for a fine nib. I'm guessing it's fine because that's what they said it was going to be, a 0.5. And it is indeed a 0.5 millimeter line, which is a Western fine or a Japanese fine to medium. And for our quote, and for some reverse writing. Actually works very, very well, and it keeps flowing, and it's a lot thinner and drier. And some quick writing. No issues whatsoever. This nib and feed are very, very wet indeed. And before I get to my likes and dislikes, I want to do a nib swap to demonstrate the real utility of this fountain pen. Nothing swaps like a Jinhao. I just got a couple of these Kaigelu long blade nibs. They are cut in the style of an architect, where they will make a thin vertical line and a thicker horizontal line. And we can get them out of the package yet. Here they are. So we've seen these on my Kaigelu 356 review, and they have the similar cut to an architect. And they're a standard number 6 size. So I want to do a live nib swap here with the Jinhao, hopefully to show how versatile these Centennials are. So we're going to leave the nib unit in the Centennial and just use a rubber band or matting to grip the nib by the shoulders and pull it straight out. So here's my matting. I have a couple of pieces, one to hold onto the pen. Now, first thing I'm going to do is take the converter out. We don't need to add any more ink to the equation than necessary, but I'm going to put that back into the body. Just gives me a little bit more leverage when I'm pulling the nib. Now I'm going to put the rubber matting around the nib, and we're just going to pull on the shoulders right here. I'm not going to pull on the feed, just the shoulders of the nib to pull it. Sort of push your knuckles together, and the nib and the feed should come out. And this is why I had a latex glove standing by as well.
So how's this work? You just feel my pulse? So
Since we're going to get very inky as this is being done hot. So I'm going to take that nib off. That's the Jinhao nib. We'll put that aside. And now we're going to put the Kaigelu right on top of that feed. And I'm going to line it up just so that the points of that feed on both sides line up with the shoulders where it curves like that. So that should be perfect alignment right there. And then I'm going to hold it with my thumb on the bottom of the feed and my index finger on the top of the nib, holding it together. And you might notice here, I don't know if you can see this or not, there's a flat spot. There it is, right there. That fits into the corresponding flat spot on the nib collar. There it is. See that little flat spot right there? So we're going to line it up. It only keys in one way. So you can't put it in this way or that way. And I feel it slide right in. I'm going to hold onto the nib and onto the curve of the feed to keep the nib and feed aligned, and just push it right in. Then I can push on the shoulders. If you need the rubber a little bit, push that in so it's firm. And then we're just going to check to make sure that it's aligned. Yeah, seems to be aligned okay. Ink back in, and with a little bit of Kleenex underneath, I'm going to dial in a little bit more ink to prime that feed. I don't know if you can see this or not, but I'm going to turn that converter so it pushes some ink down into the feed. You see that ink traveling down? There. A little trick my friend Jack did for me. He will take a Kleenex and actually drop a bit of ink down through that, waste a little bit of ink, and then back it off a little bit. Put the barrel back on, and that way we've instantly got the feed saturated and we've got ink flowing through the nib. So this is now the Jinhao #100 Centennial, and it has a Kaigelu long blade. That's what they're calling them. I'm saying it's an architect. It behaves like an architect. It looks like an architect. Sounds like an architect. Good thing I didn't step in it. And so you get some instant line variation. This is the first time I'm writing with this particular nib. I've got one of these. I'm getting a bit of a skip. I've got one in my Kaigelu 356 currently, and I'm really liking that. And I've got another one in my Moonman M800, which I'm really liking as well. So I bought another couple to play with, and I might get a couple more the way this one's writing. Look at that. Instant character. I love the way this nib behaves. And it's got some feedback, of course, but I think a feedback gives a nib some control. It makes it a little bit easier to write with. I really like this. So, what do I like and what do I not like about this fountain pen? Well, I showed you my biggest like about the Centennial 100. It's versatile. It used to be that pen, nib, and ink lovers would buy up a bunch of Jinhao X450s, X750s, or 159s to inexpensively use those to experiment with different nibs and inks. You can even swap a Zebra G flex nib into one of these pens if you want to experiment with flexing. I have a video where I show how I did that with my Jinhao 159. And again, these Jinhao nibs are exactly the same between all those models, X450, X750, 159, Centennial 100, they're identical. The Jinhao 100 Centennial with its stock nib is still a terrific pen for $20. It writes. It now comes in a huge range of color options as well as mixes of finials and caps and barrels. Very cool. This might well be why both the top and bottom finials unscrew on this pen, so that you can mix and match. You buy your favorite colors of pens, buy 2 or 3 of them, and then you can swap the finials and the sections and the barrels and make yourself your own Frankenpen. Mix and match. It's like having your own Barbie mix and match playset for fountain pens.
President Barbie, the first Barbie Commander-in-Chief.
Hey girls, why aren't you playing with President Barbie? 'Cause we don't have to!
President Barbie, no fun, definitely a president.
And if you don't like the nib that came with it,
Get out!
well, there are plenty of Jinhao nibs for replacement. If you don't like the fine nib, you can get the Kaigelu standard nibs in EF, F, and M in packs of 3 for around $12.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
I'm going to insert a comment here that I now feel the Jinhao 100 Centennial has surpassed my usual pick as best pen for the buck, the Pen BBS 308. The Centennial is more available, costs less for the wonderful acrylics, where the 308 is more than $30 for the nice acrylics, and the nibs are more swappable than the 308. There, I said it. Now back to your regular programming.
We return you now to your regularly scheduled program.
And what don't I like about this pen? Well, the only things I said negatively about the pen before were the boring orange, and they solved that problem, and the black finials, and they solved that problem. The switch to the Chinese standard instead of international standard converter is interesting, but because it will also accept standard cartridges, I wouldn't worry too much about that. And there you have it. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell to get instant notifications whenever a new video is posted. And don't forget that you can join as a member of my channel for only 99 cents a month, and I guarantee I will answer your comments in the comment section, and you'll get cool emojis and badges too. And that just leaves it for me to say, thank you for watching. And that's all she wrote.
I made this.